Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 4 things I think you should know about this upcoming full moon on August 30th, 2023. Number 1, I wrote down detaching from drama. You might find yourself needing to detach from drama to some extent. You might be feeling a lot more sensitive and empathic even than normal. I know a lot of you are already very empathic people, but you might find it to like a whole new level kind of randomly. An example, I was last night watching this movie with my wife Patty before bed. We were watching Interstellar. It's a phenomenal movie, by the way, with Matthew McConaughey. But it's such an intense, emotional movie, and it just moved me so much. I went to bed like completely like wired, but also almost feeling like super connected to the characters and the sadness of Matthew McConaughey. He had to leave his kids to go save the planet by traveling to another galaxy, and he is such a good actor. And anyway, I felt like that the energy of the movie was literally like pulsing through me all night. So you might also notice this with people in your life, like relationships. You might realize just how the various people who come and go through, who you're interacting with on a regular basis in your life are affecting you vibrationally, energetically, emotionally. You might find that maybe there are certain people you're more enmeshed with than you care to be. For example, what I've noticed that sometimes when you get close with people and spend a lot of time with them, it's very common that you start playing out like karma with them. Your unconsciousness starts to kind of interact with their unconsciousness, and you can find yourself in these like learning lesson healing cycles, basically. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've been doing that with my wife for like 15 years. It's part of it. But I prefer to do it with my wife. I don't prefer to do it with a coworker, as an example. But if you get too close with people, you might find that you're just like becoming too enmeshed. Number 2, I wrote down a shifting of the energy. You may have felt very busy all summer, like you were preparing for something and doing a lot of work. For example, I moved, so I had to pack up the entire house, and then there was the busy week of actually moving, and then I'm in my new home now and unloading everything. A lot of busyness, a lot of physical activity involved in manifestation. Now I have a new home. And you may have felt like that in your own way. Like you woke up into a situation you were in maybe earlier in the summer and realized, oh, this is not in alignment anymore. But it took a lot of effort, a lot of, again, action basically to shift yourself. And you may have just been in like a Leo-like action-based type of energy where a lot of action has been inspired. It may have felt natural. Your body may have been telling you to like take it easy and chill out, but spirit was kind of driving you and carrying you along, and it's been like that for some time, and now it's shifting. Yesterday I found myself, for example, almost like continuing that same mode of operation because I've been going about life like that for a couple of months now. But yesterday, like nothing was coming together. Everything I was even bumping into things. I just felt off. I felt like I knew you got to just take a break. It's time to kind of chill. And at one point I sat on my couch and I was going to meditate, but I actually kind of like dozed off for a second, and I heard in my head the word like debrief. And I woke up with that word kind of like ringing, echoing in my mind, debrief. And I realized I've been going for so long. I haven't really taken the time to settle in, take a breath, and kind of decompress. Now, some of you may have been in this type of energy I'm describing now for a little while, and you see everybody else moving and doing stuff, and you're wondering, why is that not working for me? Maybe you're trying to take a lot of action and you're running into walls, kind of like I did yesterday. And you're wondering like why you get the sense that maybe it's just not the time, but I want to. You may have goals to pursue and things of that nature, but you just have this knowing that right now, for whatever reason, it is time to stop, pause, and wait. And oftentimes we find ourselves in what I call like hermit mode. Hermit mode is exactly as I described, when There are things you want to do, but you know it's not time. And even if you ignore that knowing, like you know it's not time, but you try to do something anyway, it doesn't work. It's like not very productive regardless, even if you tire yourself out attempting, and you're kind of forced to just wait. And it's like, why? Well, why can't I do these things? You might wonder. Well, it's kind of like a software update. You can look at it like for your computer or for your phone. Temporarily, the device has to turn off. And then you can't use your phone for a little while. Then it has to reboot. And then you see that little bar slowly traveling across the screen. You're like, come on, I gotta freaking make a call, come on. But after that, you're back online and you've been updated and you have new features, you run more smoothly, etc. And that's what I think a lot of us tend to do vibrationally. Either after a period of a lot of action, we kind of decompress and debrief and rebalance. Or before a period of a lot of action, we do the same thing so that when we do get moving, we are aligned. Number 3, it's a time that would benefit you and also other people to have compassion and understanding for other people. One of the things that can happen when a person starts to go through a spiritual awakening is they start to see the unconsciousness of other people. And it can be frustrating. And what I think a lot of us are feeling now is the folks that have been going through an awakening for a while, even though they've already seen kind of what I've been saying, how some people don't seem to be getting the clue. Now there's this like really big divide almost. We live on a planet with a very mixed bag of levels of consciousness. And what you see and what is so obvious to you, some people are completely oblivious to. And you wonder, like, are they lying? Like, what do you... It's just, there's a larger discrepancy, again, of like perspectives, of vantage points. And sometimes you can see people playing out certain patterns, exuding, acting from deep levels of unconsciousness that, again, to you is like so obvious. Like, what are they doing? Maybe somebody somebody you care about. But if you try to like mention it, it's not going to be understood. If anything, it can create problems if you try to like help them. And what can be good is to just, again, have compassion and also trusting that just like you do, everybody is playing out the different dynamics, the different lessons that their soul apparently chose to learn in this lifetime. And there's value. That's kind of how we raise up in consciousness, is by playing out our unconsciousness in a way that allows us to like have a very clear result that we either like or don't like. When I was younger, I became a drug addict. That was me allowing my own anxiety and insecurity to seek relief in a very unhealthy way. It was an unconscious way of coping with something much deeper. And was it kind of painful and reckless and dangerous? Yeah, big time. And I would not be the person I am today had I not gone through that. If somebody was to come and save me from that, I would have surely played out that same energy in some other way, maybe even worse. Because sometimes it just kind of escalates until we get the message. So you might see people who appear to not be getting the memo that there's an awakening taking place and this opportunity to kind of wake up to your power and truth and potential, but really they are, but just in a very different way. You, luckily, have woken up and you're able to kind of move through these energies more consciously, where it's more emotional, more intuitive. And you little things going wrong in your life, you can tune into and sort of understand, oh, this is shedding light upon this. Where other people, they have to play it out in a much more 3D way. That's fine though. It's fine. And you might find yourself getting impatient with people and frustrated. Like, come on, get the point. What's their deal? But really, it's like what keeps coming to mind, and it's been coming to mind all week, is something that Jesus said: forgive them, for they know not what they do. And people like you watching videos like this, you're probably going to at some point become a way shower of sorts, a teacher. And what does a good teacher do? Good teachers have a tremendous amount of patience and compassion for their students, even though you're talking regular people here. But we have to get that memo as well and realize, we see these things for a reason. Now what are we going to do with them? And a lot of times the answer is nothing. It just kind of comes to the territory of waking up, and that can be the challenge, to do nothing and to trust that everybody's on their own journey. And if we are to become a part of it, it usually comes from a genuine divine inspiration rather than this like desire to control outcomes of other people. And lastly, number 4, I wrote down 5D manifestation. So even though you might find yourself kind of like in hermit mode, where your body's not allowing you to act and do as much as you would prefer, you can just sense the timing's not right, you might find that you also don't have to do as much. That simply intending for outcome, just in your own mind, your own brain, it tends to result in these outcomes sort of manifesting in physical reality, sometimes very easily and effortlessly. And what I've learned about life is that all we really have to do is ask. A lot of times we go through life and we're like, we become aware of the things that are off in our life. People, situations, etc., that we wish to shed, even patterns we wish to move on from, evolve on from. And then it's like but instead of being like, there's this and there's that, a different way of going about it is, well, what do I want? I know I don't like this job situation, but what would I like my job situation to look like? I'd like to have more time freedom. I'd like to be able to use more of my creative energy in a freer way. Whatever that is, I'm telling you, now is the time to have these sincere prayers being sent out to the universe founded upon the information you're getting, the contrast you're attracting into your life, so that you can have a different option. But it does require us a lot of times to actually sort of like formally put it out there. I would like this. I remember many years ago, I found myself in a drug rehab for like it was like my 4th or 5th time in drug rehab for heroin. I was like 18 years old actually at the time. And I could not stop using drugs. And my life was just becoming a mess. Prior to that arrest, or maybe around that time, I was also arrested and had drug paraphernalia on me, and was, now I was mixed up with the court systems. My parents were just devastated watching their poor young child, go down such a dangerous path. All my friends had lost faith and trust in me. I was became like a real dope fiend, basically. And anyway, I wanted to stop. I knew this was not good for me, but I just couldn't. I was so caught up in the momentum of my addiction. And here I found myself once again back in rehab for the 4th time in like 4 or 5 months. And it was the first day. And I was getting really sick. When you come off of drugs like that, you get very sick. Like imagine like the worst flu you ever had times like 10. Add to that horrible, like painful body aches and insomnia for like weeks, where you just don't sleep at all. Literally, not a week, for like 2 weeks. And it was starting to come on. And I was sitting at the edge of my bed, wondering like, how did I end up back here again? And what was going through my mind was this conversation that was sort of opened up in the previous class. There was like classes in rehab you have to go to. They call them didactics. And the last one of the night was ran by this one dude who was really religious. We'll say, I wouldn't call him spiritual, very religious, almost in kind of like an arrogant way, where he kind of came off like he has this beeline to God and he knows more than you, and God told him to tell us this. It drove me crazy, only because I didn't believe in God at that time. I was so cynical at that time in my life. And I was sitting there at the edge of my bed, getting dope sick, wondering how the hell I got here again, thinking about what that guy was saying, and I was just getting so mad. And I was getting so mad about the idea of God. So I sat there and I started yelling at God. I started looking up at my ceiling just like this, saying, God, if you are real, why don't you come down and help me? I could really use your help right about now, buddy. And then what happened after that is something that to this day blows my mind. I was sitting there 1 minute, feeling bogue, at the edge of my bed, sort of crying and yelling at God, and then all of a sudden, I just went somewhere else. There was no transition. I didn't walk somewhere. I just was suddenly from one moment to the next elsewhere. And where I was what I would best describe as a heavenly realm. Why would you call it a heavenly realm? I'll tell you, it was white everywhere, cloud-like flooring, believe it or not, all bright white environment, and the entire location emanated the purest love I have ever felt in my entire life to this day. A true, pure, divine love was everywhere, engulfing me. And I remember being so fixated about this love feeling. I was like, holy cow, how can this exist? This is real? And as I was my mind was being blown by this love, over in the distance, I saw an angel. And this angel was appearing to come towards me and getting bigger and bigger, coming closer and closer to me. And this angel, it also was its own, I get choked up every time because I could almost tap back into that love. But this angel also was his own source of love, their own source of love. And as they were getting closer, even though I was already engulfed in this love energy, this other love was coming and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I eventually just started weeping in this dreamlike state. And the angel literally came up to me and wrapped its arms/wings around me and embraced me. And in that moment, I knew that this feeling of love is where I come from. This is my true, I believe, this is our true home. This love. And anyway, beyond that, this angel ended up taking me around and showing me a lot of cool lessons. One of them was kind of what most people would call a life review, but it was only for a portion of my life. It was sort of showing me myself being an addict with the people I was surrounding myself with from a much higher vantage point, and I could see it very clearly. These guys were not my friends. They were just, we were all using each other. And anyway, I had this whole kind of experience with this angel. At one point we were playing a game, and it was to show me that you can have a lot of fun without drugs. It was very bizarre. But anyway, I found myself after this experience, I found myself in my bed gasping up from my pillow and I looked around. It was daytime. The first thing that popped in my head was, how the hell did you sleep? You don't normally sleep, period. Not for a split second, for a long time after you come off of heroin. But I somehow was out all night. More so, what the hell was that? What was that? And I remember at that time I felt compelled to kind of journal it down. And it stuck with me ever since. I've ever since known that there is some type of divine reality. And more so, the reason I said all of this is that whenever we want its assistance, all we have to do is ask. Prior to that day, I never really asked for help in that way, in a formal way. And even though I was quite rude with God, if you could call God, source, whatever, there it was. When I really needed it, it was there. And at that time, it was more of a necessary divine intervention. But now what I'm finding is that these sincere prayers, what we really want. What do you really want? You want maybe a safe home for your family? Do you want a career that satisfies you, that brings you creative fulfillment and also pays the bills and supports you in the lifestyle that you would really prefer, if you're honest? Pray for it. Put it out there. Any of these sincere prayers you might find start to come into your life a lot faster than normal because the energy has shifted. That's what all of this is about. The energy on the planet is raising in its frequency, allowing time and space to become a bit more malleable, a bit more subject to our conscious intentions and influence. And a lot of us are just starting to realize that. But if no one's told you, let me just tell you, try it. What do you want in your life? Pray for it. You don't have to pray if that word bothers you. Ask for it. Write it down. Because we are living in a new energy and things can come a lot faster and a lot more efficiently, a lot more synchronistically. But it does come down to us as the individuals to ask. So with that said, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Before I go, I'll let you know I created for all of my audience a couple years ago a guided meditation that can help you connect with what I call the higher self. You can call it your intuition, your soul. It's just something that I felt inspired to make, because a lot of people, they sometimes have trouble discerning their intuition from ego. And the goal of this meditation is that you can just put it on, you can play it. It's totally free, by the way. If you want to check it out, there's a link down below. But you just put it on and it will help guide you into more and more and more of a centered place where your intuition is a lot more clear. And again, it's totally free. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. And with that said, I'll see you in the next video, my friends. Have an amazing day. Peace.